We are at the end of 2022, a year that will always be remembered for some of the best AAA blockbuster titles, a remarkable lineup of indie games and everything that falls in between. Hi guys, Berrlett here. Thank you so much for joining me today to celebrate the best 10 games I played throughout 2022. Now I'm just going to give a couple of honorable mentions to games that I didn't play enough of to make it to this list. The first being a game called Solstice, a Japanese action RPG. Beautiful game. I know critics were a bit harsh on it. It's not entirely clean. It's not perfect, but it's a good experience nonetheless. The second being an indie title called Asterigos, Curse of the Star, brimming with boss fights, beautiful visuals, mystical land to go across, and a beautiful adventure. Didn't play enough of these games. I'm sure at least the second one would have made it to this list, but there you go. Now let's jump into the list itself, the actual games that made my list in 2022, starting with number 10, and for that position I'm going to go with Ghostwire Tokyo. Ghostwire Tokyo dropped on the 25th of March 2022 on the PlayStation 5 and PC. I believe it's the last exclusive collaboration between Bethesda and Sony for obviously the all-known reasons, Bethesda joining Team Microsoft going forward. I think it's a timed exclusive, so it will be dropped on Xbox for sure, maybe other platforms for everyone to enjoy. The game follows Akito, the protagonist, going through pretty much empty Tokyo. Everybody's been chased out by a horrifying ghost. And that's also obviously taken against the game itself. Tokyo feels very empty. Sunset is very shallow. There's nothing much to see or to experience around the city, and it's not untrue, but I mean, it kind of adds to the game's atmosphere, where you'll be fighting a boss 1 minute and then you'll make it to Tokyo Central Town and you'll be witnessing a ghost parade going through the city. So obviously it has its own share of critics, but the beautiful visuals stands out. The somewhat good narrative about the game, also something that is considered as positive, but what the game truly shines, for me at least, is the fighting mechanics. It's very creative, and I love creative fighting mechanics. You use the world's breakable objects to top up your elemental arsenals, like you have fire and ice. That's also very good. It deserves a slot. It is at number 10. Down to number 9, and for number 9 I'm going to go with my horror title of the year, The Quarry. The game released on the 10th of June 2022 by Supermassive Games. For some reason it was marketed as a successor to Until Dawn, although to be perfectly honest with you, playing it I did not make this connection. Until Dawn was a good game, and this also is very good in its own right. The game follows a group of teenagers who try to make their way to Hackett's Quarry to spend the night. A couple of them are supposed to be the counselors of the group of teenagers who find it very, very difficult to make it to Hackett's Quarry. They were diverted. They were asked by police to go spend the night somewhere else and then go to Hackett's Quarry. They ignore these suggestions, and they make it to Hackett's Quarry for a night of horror that is completely unforgettable. As we said, it's Supermassive Games, and it's beautiful. It's multi-plat. You can play it on anything you like. It's actually horror from start to finish. You don't know, the best thing about it is actually you don't know what's going on. You start asking questions all the way from the first 10-15 minutes right to the end of the game. Supermassive Games for me scored big time with this, and I love the fact that they actually listen to the community. They, as we said, they do have a cult following, probably established from the days of Until Dawn, obviously passing by all the trilogy until now. So some of the suggestions were taken into consideration, probably mostly about the narrative, how the story should be scary in what way, all the way down to the smallest of details like the camera angles for more sort of thrills and scares. It definitely deserves a slot on my list, and it is at number 9. Down to number 8, and we're going to go with Sifu. Sifu, released on the 8th of February 2022 by Slow Clap, published also by Slow Clap. It's a small indie developer. They released a similar game a few years back called The Observer. Not many people play that game, but there's some footage of that game on this channel if you want to go check it out. Sifu is a beat-em-up title with a very good narrative. It's basically a story of revenge. A child who was wronged by drug traffickers at an early age, and he grows up to seek revenge of those who wronged him and his family. The game is very smart, and the reason I say smart is because if you know what you're doing, you can actually beat it in 3 to 4 hours. But if you're anything like me and you get completely lost playing the tutorial of the game, then you know you're in for a very long ride. Obviously, the emphasis of the game is on the martial arts, it's on the kung fu side of things, and as we said, there's sort of a steep learning curve to know what you need to do. It has a very sort of unique mechanic. Every time you die, you lose a couple of years. Obviously, you're more experienced, but you are slower, so more, kind of like easier target to enemies. It's a beautiful game. It definitely deserves a slot on this list. Very happy to have an indie title. It is at number 8. We are at number 7, and for number 7 I'm going to go with Dying Light 2 Stay Human. Dying Light 2 was released on the 4th of February 2022 by Techland, a small European studio. It's a sequel to the first Dying Light that was released back in 2015. It takes place in the same fictional city of Iran 22 years later. I started playing the game probably about a couple of days into its release, and while playing it I was reading some of the Metacritic's user reviews just to see what gamers think of it, and I read a lot of complaints about stuff like all we asked, all we wanted, all we expected is a rooftop zombie chase parkour. And I couldn't help but thinking that we got all of that. The game has a lot of chasing, rooftops, in the main streets. There are all sorts of horrible undead running after you day and night. Yes, there is an attempt at developing a story. There's a bit of drama, a brother looking for his sister, and also there's maybe some could say a poor cooperation of some old school RPG elements that didn't pan out very well. But the game kind of stayed true to what we come to expect of it. For me personally, it didn't deserve the harsh critics. It deserves a slot. It is at number 7. Down to number 6, and this is the beautiful, heartbreaking story of Plague Tale Requiem. Plague Tale Requiem was released on the 18th of October 2022, developed by a Sober studio, published by Focus Entertainment. It's a sequel to the Plague Tale Innocence that was released a few years ago, and it's also a sequel in terms of events. This one takes place 6 months after the events of the first game. It follows Amicia and her adventures across France to save her little brother Hugo from a fatal disease, by making it to a certain point where a cure believed to be available. The game is much larger compared to the first entry of Plague Tale Innocence. The bosses are harder to fight, and also what is noticeable in this game is the amount of rats that will come to hassle you from every corner. At times it's actually very frightening. The game shines in 2 departments for me, the first being the rich in drama. It's a family affair, sister saving her brother, looking for all sorts of friends and allies that could support her and her brother in her journey. And you can't help but really have sort of pity and feelings for Hugo and Amicia. The other part is the stunning visuals. Here I'm playing it on the PlayStation 5. It is just beautiful at times. It feels almost you are watching a very, very good movie. I was really excited, very happy for it to be nominated for Game of the Year. It deserves a slot. It's at number 6 on my list. We are at number 5. This is the very good, at times challenging, Steel Rising. Steel Rising was released on the 8th of September 2022, developed by Spiders, the guys behind Greedfall, published by Nacon. The main draw that you could take about this game is the harsh critics, even the gamer reviews. It was kept by many. To me, financially it didn't do very well, and it's such a shame really, because it's a very, very good game. Often the critics were comparing it to the Dark Souls or the Souls formula. Stuff you would hear stuff such as, this is very easy for Dark Souls replica, and it's actually not. It's unique in its own way. Yes, it borrows some features from the Souls formula, but it's good in its own right. It has nothing to do with the Souls, not the atmosphere, not the difficulty of the bosses, not the amount of the bosses. Actually, speaking of bosses, there are only 8. They're not that challenging, and they are all on this channel if you want to go and check them out. I love the sort of the history in cooperation of it's a French developer, as you can see, Marie Antoinette, in this type of setting. It shines also in terms of the fighting, the classes that you can choose from, a soldier to a dancer to a couple of others. It's actually a beautiful adventure to go through the French Revolution in the 17th century in this type of setting. It deserves a slot. For me, it's at number 5. Down to number 4, and this is the gorgeous open world action RPG Horizon Forbidden West. Horizon Forbidden West was released on the 18th of February 2022 exclusively on the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. The game follows the adventures of Aloy across the Western land in a post-apocalyptic setting in a world dominated by machines. It's a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn of 2017, and a much larger sequel at that. The world is massive. The map stretches all across the western side of the United States. The world is just absolutely stunning and beautiful. It will take you a considerable amount of hours to complete the main quest, and you'll be constantly invited to play some of the best side missions in all of 2022. You can't help but thinking how much Guerrilla Games managed to improve on the first Horizon. The world is absolutely massive. It's a visual feast. The visuals, particularly obviously on the PlayStation 5, are just brilliant. The fighting mechanics that is also improved compared to the first installment with the introduction of the Surge Valor system, and obviously we're all waiting for the expansion of Horizon, that is the Burning Shores, that will be, I believe, dropped in April of 2023. There was obviously no surprise that this game was nominated for Game of the Year. The exploration alone will take you a lot of hours to go across from one side to another. There's underwater, free climbing, and a lot of other improvements and introductions. For me, it is at number 4. Down to number 3, and this is the absolutely crazy of an experience that is Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Tiny Tina's Wonderland was released on the 24th of March 2022, developed by Gearbox, published by 2K Entertainment for all the major platforms. It is without any doubt the best shooter-looter that came out in the last few years, of course. Saying that considering how much of a disappointment Borderlands 3 was for many gamers. You'd be going through this and often thinking this is a spin-off that tops the original game in every respect. This is how much of an experience, how much of a very, very good game, and an improvement to the Borderlands, or at least the last entry of the Borderlands. The reason I say it's crazy is because you'll be fighting a pirate on the shores of a very beautiful beach one minute, and the next you'll be deep underground taking on an army of zombies and their boss, Zombo. The game is a visual feast. It's stunning how it looks on pretty much all platforms. Steady frame rate all throughout, in spite of the fact it's quite colourful. There's a lot of movement. And the game, of course, follows the traditional classics of the Borderlands series in terms of story building and also the humour, but also the guns, the variety, the upgrade system, and the amount of main quests to complete to go through the entire experience. For me, it is definitely top 3 spots, and it is at number 3. You knew this was coming. God of War Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok was released on the 9th of November 2022, developed by Santa Monica and published by Sony Entertainment. It's an exclusive to the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. It plays a pivotal role in these stunning games, blockbusters, some of the best experiences that came out in 2022. For many, the year was split between a couple games to win the Game of the Year, and God of War is definitely one of them. It follows the adventures of Kratos and his son Atreus across a mystical Norse mythology land, looking for allies, partners and friends, other gods, to join them in their quest to defeat evil. The game is a visual stunner. It's beautiful on the PlayStation 5, smooth all throughout, very steady frame rate, and an unforgettable experience. Atreus plays a major role in this one. He's older compared to the God of War 2018. He has a say in some of the crucial decision making, and also takes part in defeating some of the most difficult bosses all throughout. A lot of main quests to complete the main campaign. It is larger than the God of War 2018, and some of the best side quests as well. I think they are called favors in God of War, and this is where actually, if you want to fight horrible, difficult bosses, this is when you need to do the side quests and favors. For me, 2022, this is number 2. As it is the case for many gamers across the industry, this is my Game of the Year 2022. Elden Ring. Elden Ring was released on the 25th of February 2022, developed by From Software and published by Bandai Namco, released on all the major platforms. It was one of the most anticipated titles that came out in early 2022, and it also played a major role in answering the everlasting question: can From Software develop an open world that is based on the Souls formula? And the answer to that question is an absolute 100% yes. The results are stunning. The map is huge. It's pretty much not doable in anything under 200 hours. You can spend hours upon hours just to upgrade your weapons, find compelling weapons to take on some of these horrible bosses, upgrade your characters, and of course invite friends to join you in your quest in defeating some of these very, very challenging bosses. The game, again, multi-platform, and it plays at 100% performance rate on all different platforms. The co-op feature is also something that is very much positive on this game. You can invite friends, you can go and take on boss, start by yourself maybe, and then start inviting friends, and it will make that experience that much more fun. It is definitely Game of the Year 2022. Thank you guys for watching my video. If you like my content, please consider subscribing to my channel for support. I'll be dropping a lot more similar content. I wish you all a very happy 2023. Thank you. Goodbye.